So we're going to look at distance and midpoint. So it's probably the easiest part of coordinate geometry of the line after knowing which axis is which. So your y-axis is the one that looks like a y, and the x is the other axis. Make sure you know that, and make sure you know how to plot your points. So finding the distance of a line. Okay, so this here, what I have just here, this is just copy and pasted from your log tables. I think it's page 18 of your log tables. So all your formulas are there for this chapter. If they ask you to find the distance of a line, so we look through the log table there now. So if we look at line, we see that we have the slope, the length, the midpoint, the equation, and the area. Okay, so they've never actually said distance, but we know, or should know, that distance is the same as length. So they could ask you to find the distance of, or they could say find the length of. Or the other way they could ask you, which is really important, just the line, PQ line. So if they want to find the distance, if they said they want to find the distance between A and B, they put your A and B and they put a line either side, and you have to be able to identify that that means distance or length. Okay, so if we look at then midpoint. So midpoint, if we go to our log table, so like all coordinate geometry questions, identify what they're asking you for. So in this case, it's going to be midpoint. Then go to my log tables, find where they have the formula for midpoint, which is just here. Write it onto my exam paper, label my points, and fill into my formula. That's as simple as, like, make it as easy as you can. Like, that's as simple as it can be. Okay, so if we look at the points, this is an exam question, 2016. There was a lot of coordinate geometry questions on them, so this is one of them. The points A, B, and C are given. Find the length of AB. Okay, so length, we need to know that length actually means distance. So then they could have asked me distance, or they could have asked me just a line, AB line. They could have asked any of them ways. They've chosen to ask us using length, so I'll write out my points. So A was minus 9.3, B was minus 4 and 3, and I know it's distance, so I'm going to use my distance formula. So I write my formula. So x2 minus x1 all squared plus y2 minus y1 all squared. Label my points. So that's x1, y1, then x2, y2. Fill into my formula. Square root of minus 4 minus minus 9 all squared. Make sure you put in exactly, because the x2 there was minus and the x1 was a minus, and there was already a minus here. So make sure you fill it in exactly as it is. Plus y2 is 3 minus y1 is 3 squared. So we'll have the square root of minus 4, a minus and a minus gives us a plus. A calculator would do all that for you. And 0, because 3 minus 3 is 0. So then we'll have 5 squared plus 0 squared, which is just 0. So 5 squared is going to give us 25, plus 0 is just 25. Therefore, the length of AB, so length AB was equal to 5 units. Really easy. Another question that was on 2016 was this one. It said Joe's quad bike is marked with the point Q. So I know from looking at the exam paper, you obviously don't know this because you haven't the question in front of you, that Q is minus 2.7. And find the distance from B to Q, and B was 4.6. So you'll know these before you complete the question. They were just part A and B of the question. So say this might have been C. So find the distance. So straight away you know you're using your formula for your distance. So you go to your log table, write down your formula, and then fill in what you know. You have 2 points. So we'll call this one x1, call this one y1, x2, y2. It doesn't matter if you call the ones here x2, y2, and the other ones y1. Oops. Right, so the square root of 4 minus 2 all squared plus 6 minus 7 all squared. Give us the square root of 4 plus 2, because the minus minus squared, and minus 1 squared. We know that any minus number squared is a positive, so just be aware of that. So you're going to have 6 squared plus minus 1 squared is going to give you 1. So 6 squared will be 36 plus 1 is root 37. Just be really careful when you read these questions. Make sure you always go back and say, what do they want me to find and how do they want me to find it? So they wanted you to find the distance, but they wanted you to give your answers to 2 decimal places. So you would not get full marks if you just get root 37. You would have to put root 37 into your calculator, SD it, and that will give you 6.08276 and blah, blah, blah. So it's 2 decimal places, it's going to be 6.08. Midpoint, I don't even have an example here for midpoint. It's pretty much the same kind of thing. If it's really straightforward. If they ask us to find the midpoint between A and B, so we'd label our points x1, y1, x2, y2 like we've just done here. Write down your midpoint formula, so go to your log tables, find your midpoint formula and fill into your formula. So you'd have minus 9 plus minus 4 all over 2, it's your x coordinate, and then your y coordinate will be 3 plus 3 all over 2, so minus 4, so that would be minus 13 over 2, and then 6 over 2. We know that 6 over 2 is going to give us 3, and then we know minus 13 over 2, you can leave it as your fraction, or if you want to put it as a decimal just to make it a bit easier on yourself, you know it's going to be minus 6.5, so that's your point, excuse me, minus 6.5 and 3. Don't forget that, like, if you had to plot that, that's your x coordinate, that's your y coordinate. So don't get confused by any of that. But it's pretty straightforward, and it's not too difficult. Midpoint. Sometimes they might say to you, if the midpoint AB, say that, but we didn't know our x1 and our y1 coordinates. So say we'll just get rid of this for a sec. x1 and y1 is not said, yeah. But we knew that was equal to the point 3.53. So we just call this x and we call this y. So you'd have x minus 4 over 2, comma y plus 3 over 2 equals 3.5 and 3. So this is a question if they say, find the midpoint of AB when A is just xy, B is, what was our points? Minus 4, 3. Or, no, sorry, the question they would ask is, if the midpoint is 3.53 of A and B, find A. So it'd be that kind of a question. So we know A is x and y. So you know that this whole coordinate here is your x coordinate. So you know that that's equal to this. Just don't forget that. So we'd have x minus 4 all over 2 is equal to 3.5. Because that's the x coordinate. This one here is your y coordinate. So you know y plus 3 over 2 is equal to 3. Y plus 3 over 2 equals 3. Solve this. You know you want to find x. You want to get x on its own. What's avoiding you from getting x on its own? Well, at the minute it's the 2 on the bottom. If the 2 on the bottom goes across, it's a divisor here. So when it goes across, it's a multiplier. So you're going to have 3.5 multiplied by 2. So that'll be x is equal to, x minus 4 equals 7. Then we'll have x is equal to, trying to get x on its own, bring over your 4, x equal to 11. Then do the exact same thing with the y. The 2 is dividing, so that goes up. So you'd have y plus 3 is equal to 3. 3 by 2, which is 6. Y is equal to 6 minus 3, because you want to get it on its own. Y is 3. So that's your point. X and y, which means that 11, 3 is your point. So therefore, if they ask you to, if the midpoint was 3.53 and your coordinates were A, which you didn't know, but you knew B, find A. So again, just fill in, label this x1, y1, x2, y2, sub in everything you know, and you know that this part is the x coordinate, this part is the y coordinate, so you solve it.